stem, it forms a connectivity between the reproductive part, that is the flower, and the root of the plant. So meristematic cells are the ones which actively divide, and these are the cells which result in elongation of the root. Tap roots undergo modification in order to store food. So this is one of the modification. So the main function of root here is to absorb minerals, water and nutrients from the soil. Hello everyone, a warm welcome to today's session on chapter 5, that is Morphology of Flowering Plants. I am Dr. Divya, Biology Faculty, Vidhyaashram Pre-University College, Mysuru, Temple of Excellence. So in today's session, we shall study about the morphology of the flowering plants. That is, the different structures of the plant and how the structures differ in each flowering plant, right from the flower, the modifications in the stem, the modifications that occur in the leaves, and so on. So in the previous session, you had studied about biological classification, especially when it comes to the plant kingdom. You had studied that based on the morphology, or maybe the shape of the flower, the arrangement of the leaves, the modification in the stem, or the way the root looks like, based on all these, the classification or the categorization of the flower into different groups was done. So how was all this done? It is because when you look at a flower or the external features of the flower, each flower has some variation. And among those variations, keeping few similarities in mind, the flowers are grouped into different classes or different families. So here in today's session, we shall study, in order to classify a flower, what morphological characters can be considered. So in order to know the morphological characters, we first need to know what are the different parts of the flowering plants are. So we shall start with today's session. So when we talk about a flowering plant, so the common one, that is the roots. So roots, they actually help in anchoring the plant to the soil. So imagine if the roots were not there, how would the plant stand upright in the soil? It would not be possible for the plants, right? So the roots are the ones which forms a base or a foundation for the plants to stand tall upright on the soil. And also these roots, they help in the synthesis of food or absorption of food, minerals and nutrition from the soil, and then it will be supplied to different parts of the plant body. Next important structure is the leaves. So leaves, they contain the chlorophyll because they have the chlorophyll pigment in the chloroplast, and they also photosynthesize, and this is the main organ that helps in autotrophic mode of nutrition in plants, because they help in the synthesis of food by making use of the sunlight that is available through a process called as photosynthesis. So based on the arrangement of leaves, be it the arrangement of leaves being opposite or alternate arrangement, so based on all these also classification or grouping of the plant can be done. And also based on the number of leaflets present, based on that, whether it is simple leaf or whether it is compound leaf, based on all this also classification is done. And also based on shape of the leaf, all that. So this you will study in detail in the coming slides. So next important part is the stem. So stem, it forms a connectivity between the reproductive part, that is the flower, and the root of the plant. So it is again upright. They may be of different shapes and sizes. Again, they may be once at a single stretch, or they may be branched. So depending on that also, the plants have been classified. And I was talking about leaves. When talking about leaves, there are different in leaves. Some of the leaves may have stipules. Some may not have stipules, and the length of the petiole or the modification that occurs. Some of the leaves may get modified into thorns, into tendrils. So all these also have a major role in the classification of the plants under different groups. Next, moving on to the main part, that is the flower. So flower, it is the reproductive part wherein it consists of usually 4 whorls, that is the outer whorl made up of the sepal, then the inner whorl made up of the corolla, inner to the corolla, the stamens or the anthers. So the stamens are the male reproductive part of the flower and it is called as the androecium. Then comes the female reproductive part of the flower, which is the gynoecium. So this is a common structure of the plant. So now you know the structure of the plant and the different parts of the plant in general. We shall move on to in detail studying about each of these parts one by one. So we shall study about the root. So root, I told you, it helps in anchoring the plant to the soil so that the plant will firmly be placed in the soil and it will not fall off easily. So in this root, when you look at a root, there are different types of modifications or different types of roots that are present. They can be taproot, fibrous root and adventitious root. So again here, classification of the plants can be done based on whether the plant is having a taproot, a fibrous root or a adventitious root. So what is the taproot? So taproot, they are usually seen in dicotyledonous plants. So what are dicotyledonous plants? Those plants which have 2 cotyledons. They are dicots and these are the primary roots which grow into the soil. So primary roots which grow into the soil and then from the primary roots the lateral roots will develop and that is called as the secondary root. Say for example, I have a root here. So this I will consider to be the primary root. That is the first formed root. It is the primary root or the mother root. So it is the primary root. This primary root later on during the process of development, it develops into lateral roots. So these are the lateral roots. It develops into lateral roots or the secondary roots, the second formed roots. After the first formed roots or the primary roots, the second formed roots which arises from the primary roots are called as the lateral roots or it is also called as the secondary roots. So next, from the secondary root, so this is the primary root, that is the first root formed. Then we have the secondary roots, that is the second root formed. So from the second roots, the roots that arises again will be the tertiary roots. Tertiary roots. The third formed roots, the tertiary roots. So this is a taproot. So taproot, it is usually found in dicotyledons. It is a modification which helps, which is usually seen in these tubers like brassicaceae members or this carrots and colocasia and all that. You can see the taproot. So they are usually found in dicots and they have primary root which directly grows into the soil. From that primary root, the lateral roots or the secondary root will arise and from the secondary root, the tertiary roots will arise. So this is about the taproot system and one best example for taproot system is the mustard plant. But here I have taken the example of carrot. So carrot, as you can see, this is a modification wherein the taproot has got modified into a tuber, right? So this will be the primary root and from the primary root from the primary root there is a small secondary roots and from these secondary roots we have tiny tertiary roots being formed. So this is nothing but the best example for a taproot. Next, moving on to fibrous root. So fibrous root are usually seen in monocotyledons. Say monocotyledons, when I say, they can be grasses, wheat, rice, maize, all these. So usually in monocots, the fibrous root is seen. So they actually have a primary root which is short-lived. Remember, what does the primary root help in? First, it helps in anchoring the plants because it is the main root that enters into the soil or forms towards the soil. So first the primary root is formed, it will wither off or it will die and then the lateral roots will start to form. So first one primary root will form, and then later on, once the lateral root starts to form, the primary root will get demolished, or it will just disintegrate, it will die off, and only the lateral roots will be the one which will anchor the plants to the soil. So that is nothing but fibrous root system. So they have a primary root which is short-lived, that is, it has a short duration, it will be there for a short duration, and then later on it will be replaced by a large number of roots. So this is nothing but the fibrous root system. So the primary root gets replaced by a large number of other roots. So you can see here there is a vast difference between what I showed in taproot system and this one. Here there is no secondary root, tertiary root, nothing like that. The primary roots will, after a few days, it will get replaced by a large number of roots. So this is nothing but the fibrous root, and they actually originate from the base of the stem. So right from the stem it will originate. What happens here is, in usually some of the plants, there will be a small region between the root and the stem which is called as the collar region. So from the collar region the roots would arise, but in the case of fibrous root system, directly from the stem itself the root will arise. So they originate from the base of the stem. The best example is wheat plant, because wheat is a monocot. Your wheat plant is one of the best example for a fibrous root system. So this is fibrous root system. Next, moving on to adventitious roots. So adventitious, they are nothing but extra roots, or you can also call it as the prop roots. Say for example, whenever you give a stage performance such as a dance program or something, you use a prop, right? So that prop will actually enhance the beauty of your performance. It is a supporting tool that you use for your dance, right? So same way here, prop roots means they are the supporting roots. They are the extra roots that have been used by the plants. So roots that arise from the parts of the plant other than the radicle. So usually the roots arise from the radicle, that you know that is, radicle is the region from which gives in the seed. The radicle is the region that gives rise to the roots, and the plumule is the region which gives rise to the shoots. So once the plant develops, say for example in the banyan tree, from the branches also the roots will start to produce. It will start to produce and it will move towards the ground. So that is nothing but the adventitious roots. And the best example is grass, monstera, banyan tree, etc. Banyan tree is one of the example here. I had used one grass family, that is wheat, to explain fibrous root. Here also grass, the best example is sugarcane. So sugarcane also have prop root. So this is the prop root. So this is the normal root of sugarcane, but it is the root here, other than arising from the base of the stem, the root is arising from the internode. In between, from the internode of the stem, it is arising. So they are extra roots, or they are adventitious roots or prop roots. Similarly, in the banyan tree also, you can see the roots arising from the branches. They actually provide support to the plants, extra support to the plants in order to anchorage, because banyan trees, you know that they grow to a very wide area, right? So in order to provide support to the extra branches that are growing, these prop roots will be developed, or the adventitious roots will be developed. So now you know, based on the type of root, the plants have been classified, wherein those plants having tap root, they have been placed under dicots. Those plants having fibrous root have been placed under monocots, and there are some peculiar features wherein some plants have adventitious roots and they have been placed. Apart from that, some plants also have the adventitious roots. So next, moving on to the different structure of the root. So when we talk about the structure of the root, in the root there is different structures called as the root hairs, the root cap, then there is the region of maturation, the region of elongation, and the region of meristematic activity. So what are these? We shall study about them one by one. So I'll start with the root cap. So root cap, it is usually present at the tip of the root, and it actually protects the meristematic cells that is being here. So meristematic cells are the ones which actively divide, and these are the cells which result in elongation of the root, because you know that in a plant the roots elongate to a large extent, right? And in order, if the roots have to increase in size, or if it has to increase in length, then what cells should be present? Meristematic cells. These meristematic cells, they actively divide, and when they divide, size of the root will increase, or the length of the root will increase, and all that. So where are these meristematic cells present? They are present in the region of meristematic activity, that is at the tip. So here the meristematic cells will be present. So because they are present here, that is why the roots are able to increase their length, because here the cells keep on dividing, therefore the length of the root will increase. So this region is very, very important, that is the meristematic region, or the region of meristematic activity. In order to protect this particular region where there is abundant meristematic cells, the root cap is present. So root cap, it is covered at the apex by a thimble-like structure. So this is a thimble-like structure. It is present at the apex, that is, it is present at the tip of the root, and it protects the root cap. It protects the tender apex of the root when it makes its way through the soil. So what it means is that I told you here actively dividing cells will be there. Those actively dividing cells will be very fragile because they are the new formed cells, right? So once these cells keep on dividing and the root enters into the soil, it will have to pass through a lot of substances which may cause harm to these newly formed cells. So therefore, in order to protect these cells, the root cap is very, very important. So the root cap, it actually protects the tender apex of the root, that is the tender tip of the root, as the root moves along, grows along through the soil. So this is the function of the root cap. So next, moving on to the root hairs. So root hairs. So these are the root hairs that are present. So all these are the root hairs. So these root hairs they arise from the epidermal cells. So some of the epidermal cells undergo division in order to form the root hairs. So some of the epidermal cells, they form very fine and delicate thread-like structure. So you can see they are very fine and delicate thread-like structure. The best example is carrot. When you take a carrot, you can see small they are lateral roots actually in the case of carrot, but the root, like how the lateral root looks in the carrot, right? Similarly, the root hairs will also look, they are very fine and tender and thread-like. So, and they help to absorb water and minerals from the soil. So, whatever absorption of the food, the nutrients, the minerals and the water from the soil is taking place in the root, that is facilitated or it is helped by the root hair. So the main function of root hair is to absorb minerals, water and nutrients from the soil. So this is about root hair. So next, apart from these, there are various regions that are present in the root. That is based on the cell, what kind of cell is present. So we have the region of maturation, the region of elongation and the region of the meristematic activity. So region of maturation. So the region of maturation, here the cells that are formed in the elongated zone. So here first newly formed cells will be there. That is the cells which are very fragile in the meristematic zone. So that newly formed or fragile cells, they will get elongated. They will increase in their size in the region of elongation. Those cells in the region of elongation will then enter into the maturation phase, wherein the complete growth of the cell would have been complete. So therefore, the old root, the old part of the root will be the matured part, that is the region of maturation, and those wherein the cells are increasing in size will be the region of elongation, and wherein the newly formed cells are, the new cells are being formed, it will be the region of meristematic activity. So region of maturation, the cells of the elongation zone, whatever cells have been formed or increased in size or have been elongated or become lengthy in the elongation zone, they will differentiate and they will become matured cells. So once in the region of maturation, the cells will not further undergo any of the process because they would have been matured and they have finished their job there. So that is the region of maturation. Next, moving on to region of elongation. So in region of elongation, So here those cells which have been, say for example, I'll just tell you how it takes place here. So now in this, here the root is increasing in length and it is moving towards the soil. Here if the root has to increase in length, what did I tell you? The meristematic cells should actively divide. So the meristematic cells will be actively dividing and new cells will be formed. So these cells later on, again new cells will be formed here. Again they will increase, the root will increase in size. Again here the new cells will start to divide. Now this will elongate. Once the new cells form, these will elongate. And after some time, after the elongation, it will enter into the next phase, that is the maturation phase, and these elongated cells will mature. Now this will be the old part of the root, this will be the elongation part of the root, and again this will be the meristematic part. Like this it will go on continuing. So region of elongation, so here the cells undergo rapid elongation and enlargement, that is they will elongate, they will increase in size, and also this region is the one which is responsible for the growth of the root, because here I'll tell you what happens in the meristematic region. In this particular region what happens, only cells will be produced, new cells will be produced, new cells. So now these new cells, they will elongate. So when the new cells elongate, they will elongate. So when the new cells elongate, then only the size of the root will increase, or the length of the root will increase, right? So that is why this region of elongation, the cells present in the region of elongation are the ones which help in the growth of the root in terms of length. It will increase the length of the root because in this particular region the cells are elongating or increasing in their length. Next, moving on to region of meristematic activity. So this is the region of the meristematic activity. So in this region, as I had already explained to you, cells of this region, they are very small, they are made up of very thin walls, and they have dense protoplasm, and they divide repeatedly. Dense protoplasm is also present and division is also quite repeated. Why? Because here, if the cells divide here, then only the further or elongation or maturation, whatever is there, will take place and the length of the root will be increased. So this is about the structure of the root, wherein you studied the root hairs, the root cap, the region of maturation, region of elongation, and the region of the meristematic activity. So next, moving on to modifications in the root. So plant, they do not have their roots as such. Some of the modifications will occur in the root because in order to cope or in order to survive in the environmental conditions. So say for example, especially they function like storage, or some may function for helping in anchoring to the soil or holding the soil properly or holding the soil firmly. So like this. And some roots, they may also function like a reproductive structure. So we shall study the different types of modifications that are seen in different types of plant species. So taproot. So taproot is one of the modification. So in taproot, what happens? Taproot, I told you, they're usually seen in the Brassicaceae family members. The best examples are carrot, turnip, and also sweet potato. So all these, that is the taproot. So taproots also undergo certain modifications. So what are the three different types of roots that are found in a plant? Depending on the different species of plants, they were the taproot, the fibrous root, and the adventitious root. So first we shall see what modifications occur in the taproot. So taproots that are present in carrot, turnip, and also adventitious roots that are present in sweet potato, they get swollen. Why they get swollen? Because in order to store food. So whatever you find in this carrot, the swollen part, it is nothing but a modification of the taproot, and it is in this swollen part that the food is being stored. So taproots undergo modification in order to store food. So this is one of the modification. So next modification is the formation of the stilt roots. So formation of the stilt root. So the stem of maize, then sugarcane, they have supporting roots that come out of the lower nodes of the stem. So say for example, I will draw a sugarcane. So sugarcane have nodes, right? So these are the nodes that are present in the sugarcane. And this is the last part wherein the roots have been formed. Roots have been formed. So this is the last node. So from this last node, that is what so from the lower node, the extra root-like structures will arise. So these roots actually come out of the lower nodes because why? Because you know that sugarcane, they grow very lengthy. So if there is any wind and all, too much of wind, it will just fall off, right? So in order to prevent the sugarcanes from falling because of the wind currents, these roots also help in, they move towards the soil, they help in again extra anchorage or extra support to the sugarcane plant or the maize plant. So stilt root is one of the modifications of the adventitious or the prop roots. So this best example is maize and sugarcane. So this is about stilt roots. Next, moving on to one more root modification called the pneumatophores. So there are some species of plants that grow in the swamp. So swamps are nothing but every day there will be waterlogged condition in the swamps, right? Everywhere, every day it is moist, the swamps. So in such region, you know that too much of moisture can also cause rotting of the seeds. Therefore, the seeds will not germinate and new plant will not arise. So that is why in order to avoid all this problem, these plants that are growing in mangroves, that is swampy areas or marshy areas, they have a modification in order to propagate. So what they have is, they have some structure, they have developed a structure called as pneumatophores. So I have taken the example of one of the mangrove plant here, that is Rhizophora. So Rhizophora, they usually grow in the swampy areas or in mangrove regions. So they have roots that come out of the ground and grow vertically upwards. So they have roots. So these roots, can you see here, the roots that will continue, they will continue and they will start to come up from the ground. So from this root will start to grow, this root will start to grow. Again from here, one branch root will start to grow above the ground. And from this root, again what happens, the leaf stem will develop, then the leaves will develop and it will give rise to a new plant. So that is nothing but these are called as pneumatophores. So pneumatophores are the roots that come out of the ground and grow vertically upwards. So they also grow vertically upwards, and not just that, they help to get oxygen for respiration. So these plants, because they are most of the time they are present in the swampy areas, these roots, because they come from the ground and they move upwards towards the sky, that is towards the sky they will start to grow. That is, they also increase the availability of the oxygen to the plants for respiration process. So such roots are called as the pneumatophores. So this is also one of the modification. So next modification is the prop root. So prop root, the best example. So best example for stilt root is sugarcane. For prop root is the banyan tree. Both the sugarcane prop roots and the stilt roots are nothing but adventitious roots, that is extra roots for support. Okay, among these adventitious roots there are two roots, that is stilt root and prop root, which are modifications of the adventitious roots. Okay, prop roots, they are hanging structures that support the banyan tree. So you might have heard about the largest banyan tree that is present. So that has spread to acres together. How was it able to spread? Because of this prop root. So what happens here is, these prop roots will anchor here, then again it will lead to the formation of a branching, then again leaf development. So like this, where the banyan tree grows will increase. So that is nothing but the prop roots. So these are the prop roots that are present. So these are the different types of modifications. Apart from that, also in the stem we have certain structures that are present. So what are those? We shall see. So stem, it is the ascending part of the axis that bears the branches, leaves, flowers and the fruits. So stem, it has branches, then it bears the leaves, and apart from that it also holds the flower, and it also holds the root, and also it holds the fruit. So stem is the ascending part that bears the branch, the leaves, flower and the fruits. And it develops from the plumule. So in the seed, you have a seed. From the plumule region, the stem develops, and from the radicle region, the root develops. So the stem, it develops from the plumule of the embryo of a germinated seed. So we all know about that. And stem, it is usually green in color when young, but as they mature, they become woody and dark brown in color. So usually the tender stems or the young stems are green in color, but once they start to grow and they mature, they become very hard, and also they become very dark brown in color. That is, they become woody and dark brown in color. So stem provides various functions to the plant. It has its own function. So they help in spreading out of the branches, the flowers, the fruits and all, leaves and all that. Why? Because all these, that is the branches, the leaves, flowers and fruits, are held together in one position by the stem, right? And also stem helps in the movement of water, or helps in conducting water, minerals and also photosynthase. So photosynthase that are needed for the process of preparation of food and all that, for all that they help, the stem helps. So they act as a connection, because whatever nutrients are derived from the root, it is carried to different parts of the plant body through the stem. So therefore it conducts water, minerals as well as photosynthase. And stem, they also help in storage of food, and they also provide support to the plants. Is it enough if only the root is present and the leaf and the flower is present? No. In order to hold all this together, or in order to support the leaves and flowers and all that, the stem is very, very important. Therefore, it provides support to the plant. And stem, it also provides protection to the plants as well. So apart from that, it also helps in vegetative propagation. So you might have heard about budding, grafting. So grafting and all, what they do is they just cut a portion of the stem, and then out of it a new plant can be developed. So therefore stem is one of the best vegetative propagation methods. And when we look at the stem, we can see nodes and internodes being present. So what are these nodes and internodes? So the region of the stem where leaves are born are called as nodes. So can you see here? The region where exactly the leaves are born. So this region where leaf is born, this particular region, from where the leaf arises. So all these are nothing but nodes. They are the nodes. And the region between the nodes is called as the internode. So those region which are present, so this is the internode. So this region, it is the internode. Sometimes in this region also small leaf-like structures will arise like this. So this is the internode. So this is the internode. Even this one is the internode. Here in between, so in between the node, whichever region is present, it is between two nodes. Can you see here? I have one node here and the second node here. In between these two nodes is the internode. It is interfering between the nodes, middle. So in between these two nodes. So these are the internodes. So next, moving on to some modification of the stem. So you have studied the modification of the root. So we shall study the modification of the stem. So the stem also, they have been modified into tuber, into tendrils, thorns and many more we shall study. So first we shall study about the modification in the stem, that is the tuber. So tuber, so some part of the stem gets modified into the tuber. The best example is, I've taken this potato, colocasia. So here I've taken the example of colocasia. Colocasia, you all know, tapioca, so that also comes under this colocasia member. The sweet potato, all those comes under colocasia members only. So these, that is stem of potato, ginger, turmeric, then zamindkand, colocasia, all these get modified into tubers like this, and tubers actually store food. So whatever we are eating, no, potato and all that, that potato especially, food is stored in the form of carbohydrates. You know that carbohydrates are very much needed for the plant growth. So we are eating actually the storage part of the plant in this case. So tuber, the underground stems of potato, ginger, turmeric, colocasia, zamindkand, they get modified into bulb-like structures and in order to store food in them. So roots also get modified. You have seen the best example is carrot that I had given you. Here the stem gets modified to form a tuber. So, and they also act as organs of perennation to tide over conditions unfavorable for growth. So, what happens here is, so whenever there is unfavorable condition that acquires wherein maybe the soil has lost all its fertility or minerals, and therefore the plants are not able to manufacture their own food. So in such conditions, what happens? The food reserve that is there, that is tuber, will actually help the plant to develop or nourish themselves properly. So therefore they help in the plant in proper growth during the unfavorable conditions. Next, moving on to tendrils. So tendrils, it is a modification of the stem. So here what happens here, the tendril, they usually develop from the axillary buds. So axillary buds, those regions of, that is the tip, wherever the tip is there the tendrils will develop. That is the tip of the stem will develop into the tendrils. And usually tendrils, they are usually spirally coiled and they help the plants to climb. So therefore they are usually found in climbers such as pumpkin, all those cucumber, pumpkin, watermelon. In all these plants the tendrils are present. Why are these present? Because when the fruit develops, you know that cucumber, pumpkin, watermelon and all are huge fruits, right? For the plant, that huge fruit, it is very difficult to keep balance that fruit in the plant. The plant might fall off because of the heaviness. So in order to provide extra support, these tendrils will help in anchorage of the climber into another plant, maybe one pole or to another tree or something. It will help in anchorage. That is, they actually help the plants to climb properly or to grow properly. So these, and also grapevines also were one of the examples. So this is about tendrils. So tendrils, they are spirally coiled. They help in proper attachment of the plant or the stem to the other substrate, be it the pole, be it the other plants, etc. Next, moving on to thorns. So thorns are one of the very important modifications that are seen in the stem. So here what happens? They are also present in the axillary buds of the stem. So where axillary buds, you can see the thorns. So these are the thorns that are present. So they get modified. They are nothing but the stem. They themselves get modified or converted into woody, straight and pointed sharp structures which are nothing but thorn. So the stem, it undergoes a modification and it gets converted into the thorn. So these actually protect the plants from animals. Say for example, some of the beautiful flowers, scented flowers, they are usually preferred by the animals as a feed for and all that, right? So in such cases, if thorns are there, the animals will not come near that particular plant. So therefore, in order to provide protection against the animals that move around these plants or try to feed on them, the thorns are present. So the best example is citrus. In citrus trees, you have orange, lemon trees and all thorns you have seen, and also in bougainvillea, flowering plants also you might have seen the thorns. Not just that, rose also have thorns. So thorn is also one of the modification wherein the stem modified to form hard pointed structures. So moving on to some of the other modification, that is fleshy leaves. So cactus, you know that they are usually found in deserts, right? So these are all the fleshy leaves of the cactus. So because they are found in deserts, the water availability is very less, too less, or sometimes it is not at all available. In such conditions, what happens here is, from where will the cactus plant derive water? At that time, the stem gets modified into thick fleshy parts. So in that flesh, full water content will be stored, and whenever required, the plants will utilize that particular water for proper growth and development. So some plants that are present in the arid regions, they actually modify their stems into flattened structures, that is especially in Opuntia, cactus, and also into fleshy cylindrical structures, that is euphorbia. Euphorbia members also, they will not have big leaves. They'll just have small tiny leaves here and there, which is also very fleshy. So they actually contain chlorophyll and also they help in the process of photosynthesis. So now the whole plant as such can photosynthesize because the stem got modified into chlorophyll bearing green color leaf like structures which are very thick and fleshy, and these fleshy leaves hold too much amount of water, which also provides water to the plants that are growing in the desert condition. So therefore fleshy leaves is one of the best modification for the survival of the desert plants. What got modified into fleshy leaves? Here again the stem got modified. Next is runner. So for growth, these all what I said was for food purpose. Next, stems get modified in order to facilitate growth or promote growth of the plant. So one particular example is the stem gets modified as runner. So here what happens, the underground stems. So some plants, I told you, it is not just stem will be present on the superficial layer of the soil. Stem grows downwards, that is nothing but the collar, and from there in few plants the root arises. So the underground part of the stem that is there, for example, in the case of grass, strawberry, etc., they spread into new niches. So what is niches? Niches means new environment, new condition. So they spread into new environment. So when they spread into new niches, what happens? The older part will die and the new plant is formed. So here you can see, I have taken the example of strawberry. So this is the underground part of the stem. So from this underground part of the stem, the one new plant will branch like this, and where it has touched the soil, that is this region is the new niche now. It is the new niche. So which region it has touched? Can you see here from this underground stem itself, the spreading will take place. So they will spread, and whenever this extra stem portion will touch a new soil, from there the roots will develop and a new plant will arise. And once a new plant arises, this will just disintegrate or it will die, and this will form a separate plant now. So from this plant, without any sexual reproduction or fertilization or nothing, the new plant has developed. So this is a kind of a vegetative propagation. So what it means is that in some of the plants, the stem gets modified in order to facilitate or help in vegetative propagation of the particular plant. So this is about runner. So similarly, we have one more, that is rhizomes. So rhizomes are usually seen in mint and jasmine, and here what happens here is there will be a slender branch. So say for example, I'll consider this branch. So this branch will grow tall, and after some times it will, say for example, here there is soil. Here soil is there, and it will start to bend over. So wherever it bend overs, maybe somewhere it will bend over like this. Here the root will start to develop, and then the new plant will start to develop. So from the rhizome, from the rhizomes itself, the plant will start to develop. So from the rhizome, they will start to develop into new plants. So mint and jasmine, a slender lateral branch that is there, it will arise from the base of the main axis, and after growing aerially, what happens? They will start to bend, and wherever they touch the ground, there the roots will start to form, and from the roots again the stem will arise and a new plant will be developed. So this is one of the best modification, that is into a rhizome. So next there are some other modifications which help in propagating the plant, that is production of offset. So offset, it is again this is a lateral branch wherein short internodes will be present, and from this internode actually one more plant will develop, and this you can cut, and now you have a separate plant for growth. So a lateral branch will have short internodes, and each internode will bear rosette of leaves. So can you see here, this again you can cut and grow it into a new plant. You can cut it into different pieces and then grow it into a new plant. So it bears a rosette of leaves. So can you see here, it is bearing a rosette of leaves. Again here a rosette of leaves with separate bulb or offset. This can be cut and it can be grown separately. So from this one single plant, numerous plants can be developed, and also they have a tuft of roots. So therefore, since they have lot of roots also, it is easy for propagation. You can just say, for example, I'll just cut this portion. So this portion with little root, I'll cut it, and then it will be grown as a new plant. So that is nothing but the production of offset. One of the modification in the stem is offset, and it is usually found in aquatic plants such as pistia. Then here I have taken the example of Eichhornia. Pistia, Eichhornia, all these plants have offset in them. That is, the stem gets modified into the offset so that it is easy for propagation or for further development of a new offspring. Next important modification is the stem gets modified as sucker. So here, this is usually seen in banana, pineapple and chrysanthemum species. So here what happens, inside the soil only lateral branches will start to arise, and from these lateral branches numerous branches will start to arise above the soil, that is upwards towards the soil. So in banana, pineapple and chrysanthemum, this sucker mode of vegetative propagation is usually seen, or sucker, the modification of the stem is nothing but sucker. Here what happens, the lateral branches that are there, they will actually originate from the basal and underground portion of the main stem. So from the main stem, the lateral branches will arise, and from these lateral branches, horizontal shoots, that is, the leafy shoots will arise, and these leafy shoots will grow upwards. So upwards the leafy shoots will grow. So this is nothing but sucker. So what happens, inside the soil only lateral branches will arise. From that lateral branches again the new plants will arise, which will start, or new shoots will arise, which will start growing upwards towards the soil or beyond the soil. So these are nothing but suckers. So this is some of the modifications that are seen in the stem. So in today's class, you studied about the plant, that is, in general you studied what are the structures of the plant, and then we went into study in detail the structure of the root and the stem. So while in the structure of the root, you studied the different regions of the root, and also you studied what are the modifications that are seen in the roots, and also we studied the structure of the stem, and also we came to know what are the different modifications that occur in the stem. So I hope you understood this session very well. We shall meet in the coming session, wherein we shall study about the other parts of the plant as well in detail. That is, we shall mainly focus on the leaf. So in leaf also different modifications are there in the leaf, and there are varieties of structures and all that are shapes are all present in, or the arrangement that is seen in the leaves. So we shall see about it in the next coming session. Thank you.